And I can probably get started and just add everyone as they show up. So thanks so much for joining me tonight. I wanted to do this special edition of the Vagina Dialogues because there are so many questions about moisturizing your vagina, the vaginal moisturizer, but in the Menopause Chicks community, they are scattered all over the place. So I wanted to create a place where all of your Q&A could be in the same location. But that's not all we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to, first of all, go over my personal mission, which is to get everyone to moisturize their vagina and to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist at least once in 2020. That is one of my missions for this year. I'm going to answer the most common questions about the vaginal moisturizer. I'm going to go over all of the options that women have for preventing and treating vaginal dryness and vaginal atrophy. And one of those options is not suffering in silence. So we have to make sure that we take care of our own health and then get the word out to all of the women that we know. And thirdly, I'm going to tell you how you can maybe win your purchase of the vaginal moisturizer. So a little bit more on that. So if you're just joining us, we're going to talk about why I want you to moisturize your vagina, why I want you to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist in 2020. I'm going to go over all the various ways, all of the options that you have for maintaining your vaginal health, and answer questions about the moisturizer, and then tell you how you can win your purchase. So this is great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy night. If you haven't already located the chat in the Zoom link, chat is in the bottom, probably near the middle of the bottom of your screen, or maybe the top of your screen. You can communicate with everyone in the chat, or you can send me a direct message there, and I will do my best to go over all the questions before we leave. If you're watching us on Facebook, please feel free to leave a comment or a question below. I will get to it after the call, which will be in about an hour. Okay, so let's get started. If you are new to the Menopause Chicks community, about 6 months ago, Menopause Chicks launched a vaginal moisturizer with, I don't know if you can see that very well, with Pure Pharmacy. And it really is a story. It's a unique story because it's a community created product. I am going to tell you that when I started Menopause Chicks almost 8 years ago now, I didn't even know that vaginal dryness was a thing. And I did a survey. I asked women what topics they wanted to learn about and hear about and for us to focus on, thinking that everyone was going to be like me at the time, and they were going to want to learn about sleep and anxiety and mood swings and brain fog. And the answers from the survey came back, and vaginal dryness was at the top of the list. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get informed. And that conversation, those types of conversations continued to happen every time I was speaking with women. And yes, there have been treatment options around for quite some time, but I will tell you that less than 4% of women who experience vaginal dryness receive treatment. So there's a huge gap in education. There's a gap in information about women being aware of the options that they have. And there's a gap in the conversations that healthcare providers are having with their patients and vice versa. So long story short, we took that challenge to Pure Pharmacy, combined it with some research and feedback that we were getting from both women and from healthcare professionals who had experience with both localized estrogen therapy as well as options that are available at the drugstore. And we combined all of that data and feedback, and Pure Pharmacy compounded the hyaluronic acid that you may have already tried, or you might be considering trying, or you might be on this call to find out why it needs to be on your health to-do list. So where do I want, well, let me jump to the end. I'm just going to jump to the end in case you have to go. We might get into the Q&A. So I want to tell you that 6 months ago, we launched the product. Just last week or this week, I can't even remember, all my days are mixed up. We introduced 2 new sizes. So we thought originally this might be something that would be like a once a month purchase for women. It might even fall into a subscription model. But I can tell you that, you know, with some of the learning that we've had, we really wanted to cut down on plastic and shipping and saving women money as well as saving their vaginas. And so we just introduced 2 new sizes. So now you can order the Menopause Chicks Vaginal Moisturizer in 30 gram, 60 gram, and 90 gram. And how long that lasts for you is very personal and individual. So, you know, the 30 gram might last you 30 days. Some women are using it twice a day at the beginning, knowing that they can taper off as dryness improves. So again, that's going to be individual. Other women are using it preventatively, so every other day. So 30 grams might last them 2 months. So that's just a ballpark way for you to gauge how much you would need to order at a time. But if you order, when you order before June 30th, any size, I am going to make a draw so that you can win your next purchase. And even if you just ordered it before the new sizes were introduced, you can just make a note in your order that you don't want it to be shipped until such and such a date, and Esther will take care of that. So if you want a chance to win your purchase, you can order at moisturizeyourvagina.com. If you already have some on hand, just insert the date that you'd like your purchase to be sent. And then on July 2nd, we will announce the winners from tonight's call for those of you that have won your purchase. Okay, so that's like my very final point. So I'll make it again at the end. But the real reason why we're here tonight is to talk about vaginal health, what your options are for maintaining vaginal health or treating vaginal dryness, including the hyaluronic acid. And then I'm going to go through the most popular questions. I think I did a dive on the community. I think there's like about 20 questions. So I'm going to go like as fast as I can to try to keep our call as efficient as possible. But let's start with, first of all, why you want to moisturize your vagina. It's the same answer as to why you would want to moisturize your face or your hands or your elbows or your feet. It is a body part, it's an important body part, and it deserves some love. Now, what happens to women, generally speaking, although not always, post-menopause, is that our estrogen goes for a dive. And estrogen is our juicy hormone. It's the things that keep our eyes moist. It's the hormone that keeps our eyes moist. It's the hormone that keeps our mouth moist. And it's the hormone that keeps our vaginas juicy. And so after menopause, estrogen is the hormone that does decline. It fluctuates in perimenopause, declines after menopause. And so as a result, vaginal dryness is a common experience with women. But that's not the only reason why you might be experiencing vaginal dryness. One of the biggest culprits, and this was a huge learning for me, and it's so ironic. One of the biggest culprits of vaginal dryness is the pill. So if you are on the birth control pill, or you know someone who is on the birth control pill, they may in fact be experiencing vaginal dryness, which is so ironic and so unfortunate. And so they can benefit from moisturizing their vagina on a regular basis. Another common life phase for vaginal dryness is postpartum. Women who are going through cancer treatments, women who are on other medications, women who have other health conditions. So it is commonly associated with postmenopause, but it's not the only reason why you might be experiencing vaginal dryness. And some women will ask me, like, why would you want, if you're not having a problem, why would you want to moisturize your vagina? And I'm like, well, I don't typically wait until my face is super dry before I moisturize it. It's just part of a regular routine. And the reason why moisturizing your vagina is an important part of a regular routine is that it, reintroduces moisture to the cells of the vagina wall, which keeps the vagina healthy, which is important for comfortable sex. But it's not just about sex. It's about sex, but it's not just about sex. It's really important for sitting comfortably. It's really important for moving and dancing and practicing yoga. It's really important to prevent UTIs. And it's really important for preventing incontinence. So we want to keep the vagina healthy, and we want to keep in mind that 100 years ago, women didn't live past 50. We are the first generation to reach 50 and have 50 more years to plan for. And so I don't know about you, but when I imagine, I'm 53, I reached menopause at 49. When I imagine my life in my 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, I am imagining walking regularly, dancing, going to yoga, feeling really comfortable, and having lots of sex, quite honestly. And I'm not thinking about, oh, geez, I might be challenged with UTIs and incontinence. Like, I'd really like to know what I can do now to prevent that. And one of the things is to keep the vagina healthy and the pelvic floor strong. So what are the ways in which you can help prevent vaginal dryness and keep natural moisture in the vagina? One is having lots of sex and lots of orgasms. It sends the blood flow to the pelvic region, and that helps with natural moisture. Another really, really important thing is regular pelvic floor exercises for the very same reason. And that is one of the goals behind our mission to get everyone to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist in 2020 as a preventative measure, as a baseline. I went for my first appointment in January of 2020, and I did it because of this work that I'm doing, not because I had any symptoms. And as a result of that visit, which was awesome, I learned so much. I learned that I have a stage 2, maybe stage 3 bladder prolapse and a rectocele. And the reason that I'm sharing that with you is to underscore the fact that I had no symptoms and maybe was challenged during allergy season with a little bit of peeing when I sneeze, but I could, like, it wasn't a big deal. I don't do that anymore because my pelvic floor physiotherapist taught me the knack. And if you want to know what the knack is, just go to my Instagram and search for the knack, and you can avoid peeing when you sneeze too. The third way that you can keep natural moisture in the vagina and avoid vaginal dryness is to moisturize, preferably with hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is it's not actually an acid. It's a compound that our bodies produce naturally up until around age 40, and then it declines. So hyaluronic acid is like this superhero. Like, imagine like really, really strong muscles. It can carry moisture into the cells of the vagina wall and help them either prevent vaginal dryness or regain the natural moisture that the vagina used to have. And that has been so eye-opening and such a learning experience for me when we have had women from this community use the moisturizer and report back that they're seeing results. Like, I didn't know if it was going to take a few weeks or even a couple of months. I knew what the research said, and the research said that hyaluronic acid is as effective as localized estrogen therapy in the treatment of vaginal dryness and vaginal atrophy. I didn't know that women were going to see results in, like, sometimes a few days. And I say that with a little bit of an asterisk because we are all at a different age and stage. So it's not that type of product that you can say, oh, you know, use it in 7 days, all will be well. It's not that. It's a maintenance, regular routine program. But some women, depending on the age and stage, are experiencing positive results very early or very soon after they start using it. Number 4 is localized estrogen therapy. So like a brand name for that might be Vagifem, which is commonly mentioned in the Menopause Chicks community. Very effective. It is a prescription. It is like a cream. It is a cream that you apply, or it might be a suppository that you apply or insert into your vagina, and it's very effective. The thing with localized estrogen therapy, however, is that, remember I talked about how estrogen goes for a dive at menopause. So it's not as effective in the first 3 months that you're using it. So you're not getting the quick results. And that makes sense because it took longer to lose that estrogen, so it's going to take longer to restore it. But we see lots of women who are continuing to use their localized estrogen therapy and combining it with the moisturizer, and that seems to work and seems to help speed things up. And, you know, there are extreme cases too that some women don't respond to localized estrogen therapy. Pelvic floor exercises are not enough. And so I want you to know that if you have tried certain protocols, don't give up. There are still options available. Laser therapy is one thing that I'm referring to, and that has a couple of different options. There's at-home laser therapy. There are devices that are like a few $100s, but come highly recommended and are effective. And then there are laser therapies that you can get in a physician's office. And that might be in the few $1,000 level. I don't know the exact cost off the top of my head. And again, it probably depends on the individual woman's age and stage, because that would depict how many treatments that she needs. Just want you to know that there are options. And often the question around incontinence will overlap this conversation. And so I think it's really important to talk about some of the costs when we list options for women, because, you know, the cost of incontinence pads are around $1,200 a year, and that's probably being generous. And if you take that and multiply it by the number of decades that manufacturers are counting on women to be incontinent, it's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And so I don't really see that as part of my plan as I advance into the next few decades. So I think it's just really important to go, oh, you know what, maybe it is worth investing in my pelvic and vagina health now, and start with sex and then keep on going through the list from there. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them, or I'm going to dive into the most frequently asked questions about the vaginal moisturizer. Okay, so vaginal estrogen heals and restores the urinary tract as well as the vagina. Does the hyaluronic acid do the same? I'm not a healthcare professional, so I'm not going to answer that hyaluronic acid does anything for the urinary tract, other than hyaluronic acid will help maintain a healthy vagina, and a healthy vagina is going to help prevent UTIs and incontinence. So if you have any challenges with the urinary tract, chronic UTIs, you're not going to want to just use the hyaluronic acid moisturizer. Use it, but please refer to the advice of your healthcare professional. Okay, hopefully that helps that. All right, so the first question, why moisturize your vagina? Well, I think I have answered that. And the second one is, what is hyaluronic acid? And so I think I answered that as well. It's a natural compound that is produced by our bodies, starts to decline around age 40. Whoops, I should get that into the camera. This is an example of how the hyaluronic acid comes out of our pump. It's pre-measured. One pump is 0.5 grams. It's a gel. It's been compounded into a gel rather than a cream because it's sticky and it tends to stay where you put it. And that has been really important feedback from the women who have been using it, because a lot of the products that have been tried and tested, they require you to lay down when you put it on, only use it at bedtime. You can apply this. I use my finger, by the way. I can demonstrate the applicator too if anyone is interested. But the gel you can put on in the morning and get dressed right away, and there's no mess or leakage. So I really like that part of this product compared to some of the other ones that are that you might buy at the drugstore, for example. What's in it is a common question. So in preparing for tonight's call, I was imagining that I was going to go to my local drugstore and buy all the products that said vaginal moisturizer on the front. But I didn't do that because I felt it was really wasteful because I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I did want to just go over ingredients tonight. I can tell you what's in this moisturizer, and I can speak to some of the things to look for if you were buying a vaginal moisturizer from another source or off the drugstore shelf. So like I said, this is a compounded product, which means it's made when you order it through Pure Pharmacy, and it only contains hyaluronic acid and a little bit of vitamin E. So there's no additives, no preservatives. It's not being manufactured for an extended shelf life. There is no water. There is no glycerin. Glycerin is sugar. There are no hormones, if that's an important part of your decision-making factor. I said water, glycerin, yeah, and there's no wax. So a lot of products that you will see advertised, even if they have hyaluronic acid in them, they will be, especially if they're in a capsule or a suppository, that's wax. It's intended to melt with your body heat. And what we learned from physicians who we talked to before we launched this product was that women were showing up in their doctor's office thinking that they had a terrible yeast infection because of the white clumpy discharge, and after some investigation found out that it was the wax. So it's good to get it checked out, but I don't know about you, but those just aren't necessary. So it's really great that we can just treat it with only hyaluronic acid and a little bit of vitamin E. So that helps answer the question, what's not in it as well. And if you are, if you have questions about some of the products that you will see in the drugstore and Walmart, and of course they're going to be cheaper, I do invite you to flip the box around and look at the ingredient list. Often, what I've found is that the first ingredient that's listed is water. And so if that product is $14.99 or $24.99, I don't care. The first ingredient that's listed, you don't know how much it is, how much they're putting in it, but you know the first ingredient is the most, is the highest content. That's expensive water. And as I quickly learned at the beginning of our research, I don't know about you, but you've probably been doing a lot of hand washing lately. And every time I wash my hands, every time my hands touch water, I want to moisturize because water is drying. And so if you are using one of those products and you're continuing to put water into the vagina, even if there is a little bit of hyaluronic acid or another moisturizing product, you're actually, the manufacturer just wants you to keep coming back to buy that product over and over again, as opposed to, you know, using as much as you need and then tapering off into a maintenance program or a maintenance cycle. As I mentioned, the other thing that you might want to look for is anything that you can't pronounce, because that's me. Whenever I see products I can't pronounce, I'm like, really? A lot of those things are additives and preservatives, like I mentioned, to extend the shelf life, and glycerin. And glycerin is sugar, and I'm not a chemist, but, and it's not going to affect everyone, but glucose or glycerin may contribute to yeast infection. So it's just really important that you know, not what's on the front of the box, what the promises are, what the fancy brand name is, but what is in the ingredient list. Who is it for? I covered that a little bit, but I want to just issue another mission now if I can. I think that this is really an important time for us to be having conversations with our daughters and with our mothers. So our daughters might be having children. Mine aren't yet, but you know, they might be experiencing postpartum, or they might be on the birth control pill. And if they have vaginal dryness, that can be very uncomfortable. They might be experiencing pain with sex, and they might not know that there are options available. So I think we can be that source of quality information and education, and a bit of a mentor for them. And I also believe that we could and should be a source of quality information and mentors for our mothers and our grandmothers. And the reason I say that is I know that, you know, women are still outliving men. Seniors homes, communities, seniors communities, retirement communities, they're full of predominantly women. However, they're also full of women who are challenged with incontinence, chronic UTIs, and even dementia. And I mentioned this a few months ago in the Menopause Chicks community. I don't know if you read it or not, but I said, you know, one of the headlines for my articles was, I want you to moisturize your vagina because it's good for your brain health. And let me just explain. Your vagina is connected to your brain, and here's why. When women are experiencing incontinence and UTIs, but when they're experiencing vaginal dryness as well, it's very uncomfortable. I even had Dr. Cara ND. Dr. Cara Denisio is a naturopathic doctor. She was on an episode of the Vagina Dialogues. You can have a look for it either in the unit section of the Menopause Chicks community or on YouTube. And she said she has patients who tell her, this really struck me. It was so it's heartbreaking. She has patients tell her that they're really looking forward to summer because they can't even wear their jeans. They can only tolerate a sundress. And if that's you, my goodness, reach out, because there are options. And, you know, if we think about women, senior women who might not have access to this education, I think we need to let them know that they can use hyaluronic acid, they can use a moisturizer, they can use a non-hormonal moisturizer if they don't want a prescription product, or, you know, maybe they're in their 70s or 80s and they think it's too late, it is never too late. And as I was going to say, UTIs, incontinence, vaginal dryness, the first thing that we do when we have discomfort is we stop moving. And when we stop moving, we stop exercising, it affects our brain health. So that's the connection between maintaining, wanting to have a healthy vagina and wanting to have a healthy brain. Now, I want a healthy brain now, and I want it 40 years from now. Okay, what is the difference from drugstore products? So I think I mentioned that. The biggest difference is in the ingredients. The other big differences are fancy brand name and really great marketing, potentially lower price, but if you actually do the cost comparison, I know I picked up one product in the drugstore the other day and it was 10 applications. So when I did the math, this is 30 applications, or could be 60 applications compared to 10. The price was like exactly the same. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't want to come back and buy this product like 3 times in a month. That doesn't make sense to me. So I'd rather just buy it once and have it last 3 to 6 months. Yeah, so ingredients, marketing, look at the ingredient list, and price might be one of the differences between this product from Pure Pharmacy and the drugstore products. How is this different from localized estrogen therapy? So the research, and I can post a link to the research if anyone is interested after the call, research from 2013 showed that hyaluronic acid is as effective as estrogen therapy in the treatment of vaginal dryness. So one of the differences between choosing estrogen therapy from your list of options and hyaluronic acid might be where you are in life. So for example, if you haven't reached menopause yet, your doctor might not be interested in prescribing you localized estrogen therapy, nor might that be the best thing for you. And so that's one key difference. And then hand in hand with that is the fact that it is a prescription product, which sometimes works for women and sometimes might not. And it might be a cost factor, it might be a health benefit factor, or it might be a personal decision. Thirdly, there are women who are not interested in hormone therapy. They might be cancer patients, cancer survivors. They might have other reasons that they aren't interested in hormone therapy. Again, it might be an age thing, like if they are on the birth control pill, which is already a form of hormone therapy, they might be looking for something. If they're going to continue to use the pill, they might be looking for something so that they're not suffering vaginal dryness anymore. So those are the main reasons. The other key thing is that often women will, who choose hormone therapy, will work with their physician, and then at a certain point in time decide that they are going to stop hormone therapy. And that's fine, because just letting somebody else in there, that's fine because, you know, your hot flashes might dissipate. They probably will, sorry, not might. Your sleep is going to get better. Your mood is going to get better. But the one thing that doesn't get better with time is vaginal dryness. It's like once that moisture leaves, it leaves. It doesn't like magically come back on the other side of 50 or 55. And so we have to continue to moisturize. So if you've been on hormone therapy and you've made a decision with your healthcare provider to stop or taper off, then you want to replace that with hyaluronic acid. Replace the localized estrogen therapy that you maybe were using with hyaluronic acid. Next question, how much do I use? The answer is very personal. The recommended on the label from our pharmacist is 1 gram a day. So that would be 2 pumps. Remember I showed you 1 pump that's 0.5 grams, but it's very, very individual. You actually will know what works best for you. So if you're suffering extremely, you may want to start out with twice a day, and that might be 2 grams a day, once in the morning, once at night, knowing that you can taper off as dryness improves. If you're using it like I am, which is preventatively, then you may want to use 0.5 gram a day, so 1 pump, or you might want to use every other day. And it just really depends, but you can't get it wrong. And that's something that I do want to underscore, because it does look like a prescription product. It is, you know, compounded at a pharmacy. And so you may have all of these questions like how much and when. And the reality is, it is safe to use on your face, cosmetic. I don't recommend this on your face because it's quite sticky, but hyaluronic acid is used in beauty products and have been since 2005. You can use it on your dry elbows if you want to, but you can play with it. So some women are using it 2, 3, 4 times a week. Other women are just continuing with once a day because that's really working for them. And like I said, we do have women who are using it twice a day. When and how often? Again, I believe the label says at night. The pharmacist who wrote those instructions does not have a vagina. I'm here to tell you, you can use it at night. If that works for you, you can use it in the morning or middle of the afternoon. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever works for you. Okay. How do I use the applicator? I'm not a fan of the applicator, but that's just me. You might be interested in using the applicator. And if so, I just, it's quite easy. You just pull it down to the 0.5 mark and it automatically measures. Whoops, I got a little bit of air. Sometimes the pump gets air in it, but you can just prime it a couple of times. And then once the product is in there, it's just like a tampon. So you just, and you can insert this into your vagina, and then the product is there where you want it, and do that a couple of times and you have the 1 gram. If you have to go, I completely understand, but I do want to remind you that if you order the hyaluronic acid vaginal moisturizer at moisturizeyourvagina.com between now and June 30th, any size, 30 gram, 60 gram, or 90 gram, I am going to be making a draw that you might win your purchase, so your next purchase. So if you ordered the 60, we'll send you another 60 at the date that you specify in your order. So I just really want to answer as many questions as we can tonight and make sure that you know that, oh, right. If you'd like a bonus entry into the draw, send me the date that you've booked for your pelvic floor physio appointment. So I want everyone to moisturize their vagina, and I want everyone to go see a pelvic floor physiotherapist in 2020. And so all you have to do is email me, Shirley at menopausechicks.com, to say my pelvic floor physio appointment is booked for X, and I'll give you a bonus entry into the draw. How's that sound? Okay. Other questions? Is it for the vulva as well as the vagina? Yes, absolutely. Use it outside and inside. How long do I use it for? Yeah, this is an interesting question, because I think there is a misconception that women can purchase this product. It'll be like a magic wand and all will be well, and then they can stop. That's not really the case. Remember I said vaginal dryness is the one thing that doesn't get better with time. No, I mean, it might be the case where you don't need the product anymore because, you know, you're having lots of sex and you've practiced your pelvic floor exercises and things are going well. And so that might be the case. Maybe you're even at the other end of the scale and you chose laser therapy. Absolutely fine. The thing is that we just want to remember that we're not ever going to just stop moisturizing our hands and face. and we have to include our vaginas on that list of regular routine. Can I use it right before sex? I don't recommend that. It's supposed to be part of a daily routine outside of sex. It is not a lubricant. You are welcome to use a lubricant. I invite you to use lubricants. Lubricants are they're catalysts. They get us from A to B. They're also for fun and pleasure. You can still use a lubricant, but moisturize in the morning or outside of sex with the hyaluronic acid. Two very different things. I can't emphasize that enough. Lubricants are temporary. They don't restore moisture to the cell of the vagina wall. Localized estrogen therapy and hyaluronic acid do that. Do I have to lay down after? Well, no, you don't have to. You can. Maybe it's like part of your self-care plan and you just apply the moisturizer and then lay down or meditate or whatever. That would be fine. Okay, this is a biggie. I have questions about shipping. Why is shipping so expensive? Pure Pharmacy and Menopause Chicks don't control shipping costs. That is dictated by Shopify and Canada Post. But we have worked really hard recently to get shipping to be as reasonable as possible for our members. So if you live in Canada, shipping is free because the 30-gram product is $52. And anything that you order at purepharmacy.com/menopause-chicks, anything over $50, shipping is free in Canada. If you live in the US, shipping is free when your order is $150 Canadian. So do look at the exchange rate because it works in your favor if you're listening to this from the US. If you're only interested in purchasing the 30-gram unit, which is $52, we were able to get shipping down to $14.95 for products that are less than $50. So we've got a little bit of a workaround, and I have lots of information on that in the Menopause Chicks community, or you can message me if you have questions about how to order just one unit or spend $150, invest in some quality vitamins and supplements while you're there, or order the bigger size. Shipping is free to the US at $150, and it's free. Shipping is free internationally, and we do have a number of international members who have ordered the product at $300. So if you're joining us from another part of the world, it's a great $300. Doesn't take that hard, but it's not that difficult to get to. You could group your order with a friend, or again, just stock up on some quality vitamins and supplements. What does the best before date mean? Okay, that's a really great question. So there is a best use by date printed on the label. And that date is going to be 6 months from the day that the product was made. That is our, those are regulations that the pharmacy has to follow. The reality is, it's called stability testing. So initially our stability testing, because the product was new, it wasn't 6 months, and you might have seen a shorter date on the first couple of times you bought the product. We now have stability testing approved for 6 months. We're hoping that that gets extended because the reality is it doesn't expire. The only reason you wouldn't want to use the product after a certain amount of time is if it changed color or changed odor. And I haven't seen that happen, and I have examples that have been sitting on my desk for over a year. So that's really important. But, I want you to go by the best use by date, because that is what's, going to be most effective, and that what is covered by the regulations for Pure Pharmacy. I love this question. Love it. Except it makes me sad too. How come my doctor hasn't mentioned this? Yeah. So if you were here at the beginning of the call, I indicated that less than 4% of women who experience vaginal dryness are receiving treatment. And there's a huge glaring gap in women's health and there's a huge glaring gap in women's vaginal health. One of the reasons is lack of conversation, although we're working really hard at Menopause Chicks to change that. One of the reasons is lack of education. And one of the reasons is, you know, you think about your doctor's appointment. They're usually 7 to 9 minutes long, and you're usually there for something else. Maybe it's pap smear, maybe it's another reason for your visit. And vaginal dryness doesn't usually come up. In fact, bringing it up at the end of a visit is probably going to result in that doctor maybe being late, or there just isn't time to have the conversation. We've also heard from doctors who say, well, I'm not going to bring it up with my patient unless she mentions it first. And we've heard from women who say, well, my doctor didn't mention it, so I must be the only one who's dealing with this. Neither of those things are true. So we have to use social media. We have to use events like the one that you're attending tonight. We have to use articles in newspapers and magazines to get the word out. And we have to ignite a movement where you take this baton and carry it forward and share it with your sisters and your friends and your coworkers and your daughters and your mothers too, to know that there are options and suffering in silence isn't one of them. And that you may or may not have a physician who is going to be proactive in bringing it up. So you need to be your own best health advocate and bring it up and get informed like you are tonight and find the solution that's right for you. Okay. Next question. I'm not sexually active. Do I still need this? Yes, absolutely. If you were here for a few minutes ago, I was talking about how vaginal health is connected to brain health. It has nothing to do with sex, and it has everything to do with sex. So we want you to have a healthy, comfortable, active sex life, sometimes even with a partner. And that is like all part of vitality and longevity. But this is not a product that's directly connected with sex. It's a product for your vagina, and your vaginal health is just as important to take care of as your brain, your heart, all of your parts. So if you're not sexually active with a partner, that's absolutely fine. Does my mother or daughter need this? I think we covered that. Potentially your mother or your grandmother may need it, and potentially your daughter may need it. This one's interesting. How will I know that I have vaginal dryness? Well, first of all, don't wait. I'd love it if everyone was proactive and didn't know what vaginal dryness felt like. And you may not. If you're on hormone therapy, it might be enough. Even if it's just systemic hormone therapy, you might not be experiencing vaginal dryness, which is fine. But my answer to this question is you'll know. You'll know from the comfort level. And again, whether you're sexually active or not, I mean, it's just the comfort level when you're sitting, when you're walking, running, dancing, exercising, you'll know. What are other women saying? Okay, I love this question because whenever I'm feeling a little blue, I like to go to the reviews section at moisturizervagina.com and just read the reviews. I'm so excited that so many women are getting the results and getting answers to this question for their health. So you can go to moisturizervagina.com, scroll up a little bit, click on reviews, and you can read all of the feedback that we've been getting there. All of those posts are from fellow Menopause Chicks members. So they're all part of this community. We haven't marketed it to a wider audience yet. We reserved it exclusively for Menopause Chicks, so that is something that you may want to check out. And while you're there, and you want to place your order for the vaginal moisturizer, I will enter you into a draw to potentially win your purchase. If you've already ordered recently, I will be happy to send it to you when you run out of your current order. You can definitely just include a date and send it to you when you need it. And if you'd like a bonus entry into that contest, send me the date of your pelvic floor physiotherapy appointment. It can be any time in the next 6 months in 2020. And that will give you a contest entry to win Vaginal Moisturizer. And that, I believe, is everything that I wanted to share with you tonight. So I am under the hour mark. If anyone has any questions on the Zoom call, you can put them into the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, please leave a comment or question below, and I will review those in about 10 minutes or so. So thanks very much for putting your health at the top of your to-do list tonight and for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of the Menopause Chicks community and for making your health a priority. Okay, I'll see you later. Thanks, everyone.